was talking to Robert Murray Smith, and so right now these are the laminations that are for my device. There's quite a few sheets I've had cut. These are the main laminations, which I've taken some out. You can see the shape, and I've got 4 sheets actually, and another sheet to go in. And these are the ends, the E, well not E brackets, but C brackets that go on the ends if I need them. But that's all useful stuff at some point. Some of these are getting knocked actually, I have to be careful. I end up finding them on the floor because they fall out. Right, these are 0.9mm thick steel laminations, so you can build them up in incremental layers. This is 3mm thick shims, steel shims that go on the magnets. So let's say you've got a magnet that's that shape, right? The magnetic flux is very strong and hard to actuate. So we have these steel shims that we can build up on the magnet. So we have them on each side of the magnet. So there might be a magnet in the middle and a shim on either side. So I've got different variations on the design. So there's a few with these are a bit of a pain to pop out. I have to use my hammer actually on these middle ones because they're a bit tricky. I've got some thinner shims there as well. Right, so show a basic principle. I'm going to use this arrangement that I made previously before I had the laminations cut to simply demonstrate how things actually do work. So what we've got on here, as I've shown everybody else before, is basically a magnetic bridge, right? It's got a air gap in the middle there, and we have south, actually that'll be south, and north. And what we're doing is, what I'm doing here is subtracting one magnetic field so the other magnetic field can actually function. So when I put these magnets on one end like this, no matter if they're off-centered, it works exactly the same as my magnetic switches, which are actually in the build. This end is on, right? So it actually holds these nail clippers really well. Now when I reverse the magnetic field with the actuation magnets or coil, electro coil, whatever, oops, I'm trying to get them off. Back this out, you'll notice that the clips will actually fall off and I bring the other pole in, and they just fell off and I wasn't even touching. So that is a one-way switch because the other end is actually off, so it basically blocks the lens effect from coming out this end, because all it can really do is turn it off. So this is an intro to show the basics before I show the other clips which we recorded earlier on. Now if I take this off again, now interestingly there's a slight amount of pushing on this side. It's attracted to the metal, but it's deflecting the magnets, so it's actually pushing the magnetic field of this field here towards that magnet over there, which subtracts that magnetic field, so it basically turns it off. So when I put this on this side, we're now subtracting this field here, which is causing this field to be deflected, which means that that's now on. Hang on a minute. So it's on very strongly on this end. This magnetic flux at this end of this actuation isn't actually travelling all the way along. All it's doing is subtracting this polarisation on this end here. So when I remove that, reverse it, it turns the other end off. So that's the basics anyway. Well, I showed you. I'll be showing on the other clips that it's compiled from a whole bunch of different videos, so it'll get a little bit. Yeah, it won't really flow very well because I'm not going to dub it. I'm just gonna snip and cut. And right, I haven't got everything wired up yet. Because I've got my wires messed up, so at the moment I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coils running. I haven't wired up the other 2, so there's half. Sorry, the other 2, which would mean if I had the other 2 wired up, I would have the device wired up properly, right? Anyway, I've got the scope readings on the screen at the moment. Now you'll notice some very interesting readings. Now I've actually turned the drive voltage down, because what was happening was my little circuit board, the polyfuse was tripping at about 100 milliamps. So I need to bypass the polyfuse that's driving the coil itself. I'll have to sort that out later, because it was tripping out on me when I went past the drive current, because the circuit board takes 50 milliamps, right? The actual circuit draws about 50 milliamps, and I was only driving the actual device at about 50 milliamps, and it was tripping the polyfuse on there. So right, I'll probably need, actually I might put a bigger polyfuse in there. I might stick 2 in parallel. I can do that. Yeah, I've got my soldering iron on. I think I'll probably do that, actually put 2 polyfuses in parallel, because I need a little bit more juice to run all these extra coils. Well, I am running a lot of coils. No, I won't get as much. I don't know. No, it'll work fine once I've got quite a lot of flux on those laminations. That's the whole point of it. The laminations have got to run past the coil. That's a conventional transformer design. You've got to do that, otherwise you won't get the current at all. The air gap, in theory, I mean, if you want me to, all I have to do is pull these things apart, and you'll see what happens. I'll show you what happens in a sec, because I can actually move the laminations. I'm scrolling around. Right, I pull the coils. If you look in the little preview window, I pull the laminations apart, so there's a gap now between these magnet holders on each side and the coil bobbin in the middle. The LEDs are still the same. We're at 9.43 volts AC. Now let's move them back together again. Now we've got up to 9.7 volts AC. It's actually gone up. So we've just done that test that you asked. We moved it apart so the laminations there was a big air gap there, and the voltage actually goes up when I bring it in, which is what I expected. Let's see. Can you see the meter? And the coil. Now, let's bring them apart a bit again. I have to wiggle them so they don't pull the laminations out of this thing. Now I'll pull them further apart. There's a big gap now between them, and if you look, the voltage has gone down 9.40. It is on AC volts, but the LEDs have got dimmer. Well, seems to be. Anyway, we can see it on the scope. Peak to peak, we're at 20.8 volts in the secondary right now. Let's bring them back in again. I have to watch things don't get caught up. It's the same. According to the oscilloscope, it's the same. It hasn't changed, which is interesting. That's very, very odd. So anyway, there's all sorts of things to do with this. I've got, like you said, I've got unlimited options. It's fun. Yeah, I can speed up all the frequencies. I was doing that earlier. I thought you saw me doing it. Let me just put the LED back on so it gives me an idea of a more accurate under load idea of what's going on. So you want me to increase what, the higher frequency or the lower frequency? The high frequency. No, I'm not topped out, no. I'm about just sort of off centre of the middle. Right, I'll go up more. Oh, it just went up then. The actual voltage on the... Oh, look at the LEDs there. They're really bright about there. I'm getting 13 volts now, and these are all fully lit. Just about. Hang on. 14. Oh, look at that. Just by bumping the voltage up on the input to the driver circuit board and also tuning the frequency, all my LEDs are nice brightly lit now, and I'm reading 14 point. Yeah, I am. I'm getting a nice bright LED, and I've got 14 point volts AC as well with these lit. Let's just twiddle about this a bit more. I'll just adjust the duty cycle as well, hang on. Let's tune the primary frequency as well. Hang on. current input? You mean to this actual coil assembly? I'll have to measure it, then subtract the amount the board takes. Just a minute. Right, okay, I'll have to disconnect the power while I measure it, so right, we'll have to measure it first with the coils off, because you have to subtract the amount of power the board is using. Will you be able to see this meter? My centre map is in mouse. Can you see the meter? This one is on 200 milliamp range. Right, it's on 200 milliamp range. I'm going to disconnect the. First, we're going to find out what current. First, we'll find out what current the board takes. When I press this switch, it turns the coil off. Okay, so it's just what the board's using, right? Hang on, don't get my finger on it. Right, the board is still powered, but that's with the coils off, right? So we have to find out what the board uses without the coils active first. Right, that should be the power that the board is using, which is 48 milliamps. Okay, right, 48 milliamps down, because you have to subtract that from what the circuit uses. Now I'm going to connect. I'll hold it on there, keep it on there if I can. I've run out of clips. Hang on, get on there. Oh, what have I done now? Just a minute. I'm going to press that button. Right, this is with the coil on. Subtract 48 from that value and you'll know how much the circuit's using. Yeah. So 156. So subtract 48 from 157. But it's basically about, well, it'd be around 90 milliamps or something, eh? 100 milliamps. So it'd be about 110 maybe. Anyway, subtract that 47 from that value and you'll know how much I've repeatedly shown people this. I don't think it's sinking in. But here's my device. Now this is, I've just assembled the other switch, which is the opposite polarization, right? This is one way, this is one way, but the field's alternated on the coil. Now before you were seeing it's acting like a choke. Now the camera was a bit low down. Right, this is one way, this is one way, okay? Now basically we're sending a magnetic field, there's another half to it, there's another half, right? So one side on this side is pushing south through here, the other one is pulling north, right? Now because this one is just pushing south and this one's pulling north, we have effectively a field of north and south, south and north, right? Well, we don't get the reverse, so we don't, because we don't get the reverse with just one switch, we have a choke, right? So we don't get any current. However, I've just assembled, I haven't done it on this one yet, which is the next step, and it's going to be the black, and we're going to be using another black one like this. I've got to put the stuff in there. Now, because I've got two now, when I haven't got 4 yet, but we're going to have 8 actually, there's going to be 8 on all of the bobbins. Now, what I've been trying to show people, and no one seems to be getting it, right, here's some very, very powerful magnets. Right, these are very powerful neodymium magnets. right, in my hand. Now look, I'm going to put them on the switch on this side, right? Now look, right, watch this. Now, look at that, it's weak, it's fallen off, right? These are very powerful. Now, turn it the other way around. Now look. There's a lot of force on there, look. Oops, I'm not over now. Look at the force on that. Are you watching? There's a lot of pressure on that. Right? This is holding this thing very strong, right? Look. It will go off if I hit it hard enough. But look at this bouncing, look, right? See that? It's really strong. Now look what happens when I reverse it. Falls off. Now these are very powerful magnets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 neodymium magnets on these cores, and this thing is falling off. Do you get it? That means that this flux from this pole cannot get out that side. All it's doing is turning it off. It cannot get through. So imagine that this is lens, right? This is lens coming back the other way. It cannot get through. You get it now? So what we're doing is alternating, right? We are going to send power to the coil, right? This side. That energizes the coil, and there's a lot of power there, right? So that power is going into the coil, right? That cycle. Now, what is lens? Lens is the equal and opposite reaction. What is the equal and opposite reaction? The equal and opposite reaction is the same pole pushing back the other way, right? And what happens with the same pole pushing back the other way? Do you get it? It won't stick. Equal and opposite reaction. It can't get through. Okay? I wish people sink in. That is the equal and opposite. Now remember that I've swapped this magnet around. Right? This is the same side on this side, and now look. See how strong it is? The equal and opposite reaction pushing back cannot get back to this magnet. It cannot get back. Right? Look. Equal opposite reaction is over here. Now we're pushing power into the coil, right? On here. Take that off. I'll remove that a minute. Put that on that side. Like, oops. Alright. Is there anything on here? Remember, these are nail clippers and it's got a springy thing. Nothing, absolutely nothing coming out that end. But, how do we get our other cycle? Right, so we've got that. That's really strong. Now, this coil needs an equal, needs the other polarization, doesn't it, right? How do we get the opposite polarization on this coil? Well, we need another switch, right, to push our power, reverse our polarization, and that's what this one is. So this switch, right, now whereas this is holding up really strong, if I move these magnets to the other ones, there, it won't hold on, look, because it's the other polarization, it's weak, look. So this is the other pole, and the magnetic flux will flow through the coil on this side. So I reverse this, and now we have a really strong hold again. Right? So, what happens? What do we do? What do we do? Remember, lens wants to come back, okay? lens is going to have to try and come back some on one of these paths, right? Now, if we're not actually using this actuation coil when lens is in the motion of trying to come back, well, lens can't get back through there. But we've switched the polarization on here now. Now, lenses equal and opposite reaction would normally try to come back through this one. So what we have to do is quite simple. When we are putting power into this coil here, this coil is off, right? This coil, the secondary coil, is not engaged, which means that the power, the equal and opposite reaction of lens, will actually try to get back through this one, right? It will try to get back through these laminations, which would allow it to come through, but we're not going to have this coil. This coil is not going to be drained. It's actually the way it works is any power that comes back through here. So if lens comes back through this route instead, all it's going to do is reinforce this actuation coil over here, which in turn will actuate this one even more. So we have a feedback loop where lens comes back, actually engaging this coil even more. So we have a feedback loop, so that what happens is when we are forcing power in here, and this is energizing this coil, and lens comes back through here, it feeds back through the circuit and back into the driver for this one. So it's actually reinforced it, so it's cancelling lens out, basically. Lens is cancelled out. Okay, I hope people have got it now. Right, this is my switch, this is how it blocks. Right, so let's say we have north, right, coming in. We have magnets south, north, and underneath there's an air gap. So we have north underneath, south there. So what happens is, north comes in, right, it subtracts south. The south magnet here is subtracted by that north. This north is deflected by this north, and this north comes through, right, out this end, and it is what we're seeing happen on this laminations, right? Well, at the same time, there's an air gap, right, between these two. This south is being drawn back, so it's been disengaged from cancelling out this north, so this north can go and do some work. So south is coming back, and it's also being blocked by this north here, which has got an air gap. So this south can't get all the way back, right? So as I say, we've got north subtracting south, deflecting north, deflecting north, subtracting south. It's very complicated actually, but it means that if you have the opposite, right, if you have north over here, north is basically soaked up by this south here, right? It's also repelled by this north here, and even if it gets past there, it's soaked up by this south here, and it's deflected by that north there. That's why the switch works, because you can't have north coming back this way because it's blocked, right? That's it in a nutshell.